Soul Center. I am so grateful that you are here. I just love looking out into a sea of beautiful, magnificent souls that have said yes, yes, yes to glorifying their magnificence, to glorifying the kingdom of heaven to, through, and as our lives. That's what we're here to do on planet Earth, whether we know it or not. That's what we're here for. And at some point, every single person on the planet will have the revelation. They will have the insight. They will have the liberation into wholeness, into your own magnificence. It should hopefully happen, maybe possibly in this lifetime would be really great. It might be a work in progress. But we want that work in progress to be fun. We want it to be fun. We're going to bless some fun on Jesse right now as he's getting ready. We want to bless him to win. He's in the running for $5,000, and we would like him to have that. So we're going to bless him with that consciousness that we've been doing for so long. He made it. I don't know if today's the final or
it's the final one.
1:30. So we're going to hold that for him. The theme of the month is labor versus love. And we're going to kind of dive into that because when things are kind of challenging in life, that means we're probably laboring too much. And love can move mountains without efforting. That's the theme of the month. That's what we're going to bathe into. And the topic for today is starting at the finish line. And that's basically, if you were to just look at the fundamental principles of how life works as in the human experience, because there's many realms and many dimensions. And well, before I go there, I just want to kind of backtrack a little bit and say welcome to our new people that are visiting here. Soul Center is part of the Association of Agape Communities, and we are we share in the golden thread of the truth teachings found in the mystical aspects of all religions. And again, as you move into the mystical teachings, whether it's Sufism or shamanism or Kabbalah, if you move into the mystical teachings of any of the religions, you're going to find where they meet at the nexus point of pure grace, pure beauty, and mutual reverence and respect for all beings and all life. And that is what we celebrate. We celebrate that. We celebrate as an all-inclusive community, that beautiful golden thread that unites us all, because the language of God that comes through and matriculates down into religion sometimes gets misinterpreted, and then people argue, and it's no fun. But we transcend that. We transcend that and go to the truth teachings where all of the masters, where Moses and Muhammad and Jesus and Krishna, they're all sitting around just like, can you believe these people are like saying things like, oh my God, it's my God, and it's my way. And they're all just like, oh. Because we know there's this one life and one God, and we celebrate that. And so I just wanted to welcome you here and welcome you back. We always need a good reminder about that. But if we were going to, if I backtrack back to where I just left off from, look at the fundamental principles that govern life in the human experience, it is just very, very simple. God is elegant, God is simple, God is magnificent, and we make it so challenging sometimes. But there's this beautiful flow of energy that comes down, it comes through. There's something that wants to emerge through us and have an expression into the world. And that's at the finish line. So if you can imagine, it's kind of like, we're going to go backwards a little bit. We capture a vision of the finished product. So if I were going to make all of a sudden feel compelled to go into ceramics and make a coffee mug, I would first capture the vision of that. I would capture the vision of it, and then I would probably maybe sketch it out or draw it out or go to my iPad Pro and I would use a pencil and do that. and I would come up with the design, and then I would come up with all the aspects of it, and then I would start to bring it into the manifest world, into the realm of form through taking the clay and molding it and doing all that and firing and killing, and then I'd have the finished product. But the finished product already existed in the mind of God. Oftentimes you hear us say in our spiritual community, it is already done in the mind of God. And that is an absolute truth, but I think sometimes people kind of go, it's already done in the mind of God. Well, I don't know. It's like, whatever, I'm not experiencing it, it's not here, like, what's going on? And it's like, the mind of God, if you move into the quantum field, if you move into the quantum field of science right now, and if you love, like one of my favorites is Brian Greene on PBS, and he explores all of this stuff, magical, mystical, but from the realm of scientific research, and of which they are studying the science of God all the time, discovering things like dark matter and the energy that holds energy and things like that. And he kind of uses this idea, this example, that if you were to look at the, if you just took a slice, and part of the time here, a slice out of a slice of bread in terms of a slice of life, you would be looking at some dimensions. There are many, many dimensions. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. There are many possibilities of infinite grace, infinite beauty, infinite love. And so we're right now, if you take a loaf of bread and look at one of the slices, that's the slice we're journeying on right now. And so that life force energy that's coming down, it's coming down and it's making its way into the manifest world through you. Each one of us is having our own individualized experience of God through our body temple, through our emotional body, through our mental body, through our karmic body. There are all the different dimensions of our own beingness. There's a whole bunch of dimensions right here. You're walking around as a multi-dimensional being right now, all these dimensions that we're not even accessing. There's so much to access, but the one dimension we want to access above all is the dimension of truth, dimension of love, dimension of God. That is the one dimension we are all seeking and returning to on every path, no matter what path you look at. If you look at any of the spiritual mystical paths, you will find that they all are on the path to wholeness. And wholeness is the self-realized state of oneness with God as an individualized incarnation of the Most High. The Most High being bliss out of your gourd, being so filled with love and joy. This is the ultimate of who we are. That energy starts to spiral down, it kind of moves like a double helix, and it comes through your energy body, and if it was unobstructed, you would become aware of it is done in the mind of God. You become aware of that, but then we're here to have an experience. We're here to experience that, and you experience things in time and space, and so as that energy is coming through, we grab it, and then we start to act on it. We capture it as a vision, as a feeling tone, as a knowingness, and then it's like, okay. It's kind of like if you're going to go to an amusement park. You have the idea, you're like, okay, you capture the vision, we're going to go to Disneyland, we're going to Magic Mountain, wherever we're going, and we're going to go on some rides, and we're going to have fun, you're going to have the experience. So we're at the amusement park called Earth in our human bodies, and it is, and sometimes I know, because it feels like we're in the haunted house, and it feels very scary and very real, and other times we're in fantasy land, or we're enjoying a small world. But the point is that we are to absolutely never lose sight of the divine blueprint, the perfect grace and the truth of God that is always seeking to express itself. Our job is to capture that on a daily basis. And so that impulse is coming down through our energy body. And in the perfect world, I would capture the vision. I'd be like, okay, I would start to act on it. There's no obstructions. And then all of a sudden, the next thing, days, hours later, all of a sudden I have the most beautiful mug that you can ever possibly imagine that has just come into the manifest world. And I got to experience everything from the sketching and feeling the clay and being able to throw it on the potter's wheel and feel like, oh my God, can you believe I can actually feel the texture and the moisture of the clay, and I can feel the energy of creation. We get to feel the energy of creation flow through us. It is a wild and fantastical and unlimited. It is unlimited. You can create anything as long as you allow yourself to move out of efforting, and this is the labor versus love part. So what ends up happening is oftentimes we go through life and we start accumulating. Oftentimes, it's for no good reason, that maybe we just like to have a little strife, a little struggle, a little tribulation in our lives. We start to accumulate what we call trauma into our beingness. Trauma would be any unresolved energies like unforgiveness, hatred, jealousy, anger, resentment. Those are all associated, connected to traumatic energy, and then they bring forward events into our lives, and if we're not awake or aware, and we don't understand what's going on, then we stop seeking the truth, and we start seeking how to fix things at the level of effects, and then Einstein would say that's the definition of insanity. And we are not insane, although sometimes we certainly act that way, because sometimes we start blaming things. Blaming is a symptom. If you're blaming anything, I'm talking, sometimes there's the overt blaming, like, well, so-and-so did this, and that's why I'm not feeling good. There's that one. That's pretty popular. A lot of people. And then there's the other more subtle, more insidious ones where it's like, well, that didn't happen, and it's because of this or that or whatever, and I kind of search for reasons why. And so our job is to kind of put on our celestial, angelic Sherlock Holmes hat and just kind of put it on, and it's like, okay, we're going to sort through this, because two things are happening in life. There's a creative impulse that wants to flow through us and express into the world, and then there is the part of us that needs to heal things that would prevent that from happening and this is the part where, as it's already done in the mind of God. In the mind of God, the doneness is brilliant. It is perfect. Just like the perfect blueprint of every cell, every bone, every tissue, every muscle, every fiber of your beingness. You're walking around kind of like, I really understand now. I totally get it. For years, I did not understand the whole premise of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde until I started studying spirituality. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Because sometimes we all do the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, where it's like, if you've ever gotten a reaction where it's like when he pushes your button, you're like, whoa, it's like, oh my God, here it comes. Wait, Dr. Jekyll, he's the one who's kind of relaxed, okay? Yeah. And Mr. Hyde's the one, goes crazy. And so we go into Mr. Hyde. It's every once in a while, and it's like, okay, and then we're having these reactions that come through. But even though we're walking around and we have those energies flowing through us, our job is to cultivate the, I don't want to call it Dr. Jekyll, but the pristine divine emanation of God is what we're looking for. And through an unobstructed, so we're looking to clear all of the obstructions within our beingness so that we may have the perfect expression of light and creativity flowing through us. So that divine spark wants to have its way through us, and then our job is to allow, when we come across those obstructions, to allow that to be fun, to allow it to be an adventure. That is one of the things I would like to bless upon everybody. Now, yes, we come across challenges in life. We come across every once in a while a very challenging relationship. Maybe there's something going on with a spouse or a loved one, or there's a divorce or something like that going on, and sometimes that can be challenging, because if we let it serve its purpose, if we let the adventure of it serve its purpose, which is it's going to stir some stuff up in your energy body that wants to be brought into the light. It does not want to be brought into the blame. It wants to be brought into the light. And we seek and find the truth, for the truth shall set us free. That is the mandate that we are to all live by. And really, the reason we want to comply with this is because it makes it more fun. It makes it more peaceful. And it also lets you move on to the next thing, because once you heal something, then you can move on. And we don't want to just sit on the hamster wheel going around and around, regurgitating and reliving the same patterns over and over. At least I don't think we do. I don't. I would like to grow and move into more heavenly aspects of expansion and start to connect with it as already done in the mind of God, which is the perfect blueprint of whatever that is. So again, we walk around with the perfect blueprint. We carry the perfect blueprint with us every moment of every day. We're never without the perfect blueprint. There's a phenomenon that we talk about in metaphysics, and there are certain levels of mastery that we are all going to grow into. There's, shape-shifting type things that start happening as we grow into spiritual mastery. There's aspects of being able to commune with other dimensions of life that we grow into as we move into spiritual mastery. But there's a phenomenon that often happens in the world of Western medicine called phantom limb syndrome. And that's where somebody who may have lost a limb feels like it's still there. And they're like, oh my God, I feel like say somebody lost an arm or a leg, they would feel like it's still there because it is still there in the invisible, in the perfect blueprint of that leg, in the physical layer of your energy body. Now that might seem a little out there a little bit, but it starts to explain why people are having that feeling. And at some point, there will be a point in mastery where it was like, oh my God, made a mistake, committed a sin, because that's all sin is a mistake, and I did something crazy. She told me not to drink beer while I was using the electric saw, and I lost my fingers. And so I made the mistake, which would be painful and uncomfortable, and I am making a little bit light of it, but I'm sure if you've ever been through something like that, it wouldn't be so fun until way, way, way later, when you can start making fun of it again. But the perfect blueprint would still be there, and in a certain level of mastery, you would be able to regenerate based off of that perfect blueprint the missing fingers. You wouldn't have to wait until science catches up with cellular rejuvenation and using stem cells and things like that. You'd be able to just tap into that. But when we take a temperature of where we are, there are certain eternal truths that we know of God, that Scripture tells us about, whether it's in the Hebrew Bible, or the Christian Bible, or the Bhagavad Gita, or any of the other sacred texts, the Quran, around the world. There are certain levels that they allude to of spiritual mastery, and it's like you have to grow to that. You don't just, go to the gym and to go and let's say, I'm going to just do a couple pumps, and then it's like, okay, I guess I'm all buffed out now. It's like, no, you got to go back in. You got to do it on a regular basis. That's what our spiritual practice is. Our spiritual practice is going to the divine gym and allowing ourselves to work out our consciousness so that we detach from the erroneous ideas and the false pain body of things that we're making choices from. Because oftentimes the pain body allows us to make a choice. You've heard me talk about the lower heart before. When the lower heart is affected and we're starting to listen, because people always say, listen to your heart. Your heart knows, because the heart is the nexus point where heaven on earth meet through you. So that soul energy makes its way down, and it makes its way. So the soul energy is so big, it's so enormous, it's so vast, but as it kind of matriculates down and makes its way to your heart knows how to decipher the soul energy as to how you're going to express it into the world. But if you're listening to the pain body or the lower heart where trauma is carried, then you might make some decisions that aren't going to be beneficial to you or anybody else. You might make some decisions that say, I'm going to harbor hatred, or I'm going to harbor resentment, or something like that. And we don't want to do that. We want to allow the corrective energies of forgiveness and redemption to come through, and that will soften. It will soften the heart, it'll soften the lower heart, and bring it back into alignment with the perfect blueprint of the higher heart. And so it is done in the mind of God as the perfect blueprint of the best case scenario that you can ever imagine about anything. Anything. If it's a soulmate that I'm after, it already exists in the mind of God. If it is this beautiful, like our right here, we'll take it for an example, soul center. Right there, in the mind of God, that's a picture of of our sanctuary that came through in the visioning process. So we tapped in and we capture the perfect blueprint as it is done in the mind of God. And then our job is to pull it closer and closer and closer into our beingness, like we were doing this weekend in the advanced level of IET, and we were doing what we call a heart net, where you start to connect. You connect with the person, that vision, and then you start to bring it closer into your energy body so that you bring the perfect blueprint of in the mind of God into your field, and as Esther Hicks would say, you become a vibrational match to that energy. And that's what we're doing. We're allowing ourselves to move into that. So whatever that is, and as we were discussing this weekend at length, because oftentimes what happens is that there's these group energies out there, and people kind of come together, and they're like, hey, I've got this really rotten idea. I've got this really rotten idea based in lack and limitation, and things going to hell in a handbasket. You want to come with me and join in and create a collective consciousness around that? And then oh, yeah, that's a really good idea. And it's like, no! Stop! We want to not, and that's all because the pain body is all of a sudden got wrapped up in lack and limitation and doubt and worry. It's kind of like misery loves company type of an experience where you start to say, and you commiserate, and then we're gossiping about this and that, whatever. And we don't want to do that. We want to spiritually gossip and communicate about what's good and what's right and infinite possibility and what's done in the mind of God. And we want to go to the finish line and bring that to the starting point. We want to hold it in, and we don't want to walk out into the group consciousness of people who and get sucked into those energies that believe in limitation or lack or things like that. And it's like, okay, all right, that exists, and then you've heard me say it before, where sometimes those things happen to me where it's like I call it my Homer Simpson moment where I'm like, oh, shoot, I fell for that again. I fell for lack of limitation. Okay, dust off, go into meditation, go into prayer, connect back to the perfect blueprint as it is in the mind of God, and continue to bring it down until it manifests in your life. That's what we are here to do. We are here to connect to it until it manifests in our life. Just as a random kind of idea, can you remember, I'd like to ask, can you remember what you were doing on January 5th of this year? Do you remember the feelings? Actually, I want to specifically, do you remember the choices you made on January 5th of this year? Can anybody remember a choice you made? I bring that up, okay. All right, we got a few minutes left. I bring that up because that just kind of goes to show, I'm pretty sure, if you can remember choices that you made on January 5th, raise your hand. Just checking. I'm pretty sure nobody can. You can remember a choice on January 5th? Oh, he can remember. If anybody in this room could remember, it would be him, because he's the closest to the veil of infinite in age. We start to lose it as we get a little bit older, but yes, indeed, I am going to honor that. I said, you probably do remember. Because you tap into the infinite mind that keeps the perfect record. You tap into the Akashic records that knows exactly what was happening. But I only bring that example up to show that right now we're using 10% of our consciousness to navigate through life against the 90% of the subconscious that knows exactly what happened and all the choices you made on January 5th and 6th and 7th and all the other days of the world. And we are to transcend those choices and move into liberation, because there are choices that we made. Choices like, oh my God, you had this little experience, and you're like, well, so-and-so, they're this and they're that, and we're judging and we're labeling them, and we don't want to do that, because so-and-so only did something that might have been out of integrity because so-and-so was hurt. And so their reactive from their pain body came forward in a particular way, but they're not their behavior. We're not our behaviors. Unless our behavior is a reflection of God, then that's not who we really are. And so we want to move into that, and we want to practice the art of creation and start to follow and capture that blueprint of it is done in the mind of God. That's why we do the life visioning process by Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. He is so adamant about that, because you go to the perfect blueprint. And then when you're in that slice of bread, on that one dimension where things are going in a particular way, and then all of a sudden you connect with the perfect blueprint, then you move out of that dimension and you step over to a different slice of bread, and you're in a new dimension with a new thing that's going to unfold in your life, and that's when the mystical, magical things start to happen, and new memories will actually reveal themselves inside your mind. And it is wonderful when that happens. So I just want to open that up, and we're just going to close right here. We're going to just take a moment. I want you to close your eyes and put your hands on your heart center. And I'm going to say go ahead and put your right hand on your heart and your left hand on top of it. Put your right hand of action over your hand, your left hand of beingness. And I just want you to open to something in your life without judging or analyzing, something that you would like to manifest in your life as an experience, whether it's a relationship, whether it's an adventure, anything at all, whether it's just a feeling with coursing through your being, or maybe it's a gift or a talent that would like expressing, whatever it is, whatever comes to your awareness, we're going to connect with that which is already done, the perfect blueprint in the mind of God, of that, and we're going to allow any healing energy to come into our heart and allow ourselves to begin to connect with that, whatever that may be, and embrace, we're going to take a moment and we're going to ask a question. What do I need to embrace in my beingness that I may receive the most beautiful, the most magnificent experience and expression of this into my life? What quality, what energy, what knowingness, what wisdom do I need to know in order that I may quantum leap, step over to the next slice of bread into another dimension and experience that? And just allow whatever comes to you. It may come to you as a knowingness, and it may come to you as colors or a feeling tone. Whatever it is, we open to it. And as you hold that in your heart, as you embrace the divine qualities that we need to energetically, we don't have to go to a class or do anything. We just need to willingly and energetically embrace that energy. And then we just move into the prayer field as you continue to hold your hands on your heart. We move into the field of prayer, into the field of infinite possibility, as we once again, we venture into the great remembering of knowing that the holy presence of God, of bliss, of grace, of beauty beyond our wildest dreams, the most magnificent, elegant, exquisite expression of a life, we open to that. We fully open to it. We allow ourselves to be benevolently vulnerable, to be soft and strengthened by the truth that sets us free. We open into this field and we allow ourselves to just navigate through the energies of spiritual selfishness. Spiritual selfishness is just allowing that which is seeking to express through us, that brings us joy and happiness, to express and that we may experience it. We open to that. We allow ourselves to be soft and benevolently vulnerable to this. And so I'm grateful to know that as we open into this field, as we allow the energies of benevolent satiation and divine fulfillment to mingle and tingle and intertwine with our DNA, with our cells, with our bones into the physical world, we grab that, we harness it, and we allow ourselves to feel the passion and the enthusiasm that drives us to the perfect expression of this as it is done in the mind of God. And it is from a place of gratitude, knowing that it is God's good pleasure to bring this forward to, through, and as our lives. We claim it so. We allow it to be first by saying, and so I let it be. And then we say, and so it is in the mind of God.
And so it is in the mind of God.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Ashe. Aho. Shalom. Hotep. And hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Ah, yes. Oh, thank you. Yes. And your homework is to continue to cultivate that as the days and weeks go on, and to continue to tap into it as the ushers come forward. And we tap into the infinite realm. One a revelation that came to me not too long ago with regards to prosperity consciousness. Some of us have this idea that we are to work and earn money. I just want to throw it out there and see how it lands, and I'd like it to land beautifully. We get to be paid just for being you on planet Earth. I want to embrace that concept. God does not say, oh, well, no, you gotta get a job, you gotta work hard, you gotta earn money. It's like, no, you get to be paid good money just for being you. And so as we prepare to move into our time of conscious tithing, as we bring out that energy that says right on there, in God we trust. We bring it into our palms, whether it's our check or money, and we hold it and we bless it. And we give thanks, knowing that we are connected to the plenitude, the infinitude, the magnitude that knows no limits and no bounds. We hold this, we give give thanks for it as the ushers go forward and we participate in the circulation of infinite benevolent supply.